Negotiations, the airline FlySafair and the trade union Solidarity, negotiations between them, that Solidarity union representing striking pilots at the airline, those negotiations appear to be moving forward, but not far enough at this stage. Mediation facilitated by the CCMA continues, but Solidarity says a deal could have been reached as early as Saturday had FlySafair remained at the negotiation table. With a reduced flight schedule still in place, there are growing concerns over possible cancellations next week as pilots near their legal flying time limits. Joining us now is Solidarity spokesperson Gideon Du Plessis for more insights into the current state of the negotiations. Gideon, good afternoon and thank you for your time. Where do we stand in as far as the negotiation is concerned? Earlier on, you as Solidarity had wanted the CCMA to be involved in trying to pull the parties closer to a consensus position. How is that work going?
Good afternoon. Unfortunately, FlySafair is just frustrating the process. They were not prepared last weekend when we wanted to meet to basically see if we can avert the strike. They were not prepared to meet under the auspices of CCMA. Monday evening, when the strike commenced, they were not prepared to meet with us. Likewise on Tuesday, and eventually Wednesday, they decided to join, but they started off by, first of all, frustrating tactics with our pilots who are based in Cape Town, who are shop stewards. They refused them entry onto Safair planes, so we had to put them on lift planes to get to the wage negotiations, and then it didn't go too well because they decided to leave early. And Friday we reconvened and we felt with the commissioners that we need to go right through the night to resolve the issues. But at 7, they said they've got more important things to do than to deal with a strike, and they are leaving the conciliation. So it's a bit frustrating. So in the meantime, Saturday morning, they did forward a proposal that they also forwarded to the striking pilots, and they gave the pilots time until last night yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock. Saturday, that's now Saturday, to accept it. If it's not accepted by them, they will be locked out for a further week that's starting on Monday. And we have put it forward to our members for voting. The voting closes at 5 o'clock this afternoon, but so far with 80% of our members who have voted, 91% have rejected the offer. So we are in a stalemate position, but the issues that we need to resolve is actually not that difficult to resolve. All it needs is just a constructive discussion, and then we can resolve it.
All right, so that's an important bit of detail that you just gave, and I don't think it had been reported up to this point. The offer that FlySafair says is a final offer that they submitted yesterday is currently being voted upon by your members with closing at 5 p.m. And you're saying at this point it appears to be headed in the direction of your members rejecting that offer. Why?
Well, there are two areas which they're very uncomfortable with. The one is they've asked for a guarantee 1 weekend off per month. That's it. And the company cannot guarantee that with the new shift roster. And secondly, what they're asking for is that there must be a roster committee which pilots will sit on, or 1 or 2 pilots, and address all the burning issues there, and especially issues relating to fatigue and affecting also the quality of life. But the company said, there can be such a committee, but they will have no powers. Basically, the EXCO have final say, and they also say for that committee to be established, the workers must sign away their right to ever strike again on a roster-related issue. So obviously, we cannot do that. And then, the offer for the first year in terms of salary increase is still stuck at 5.7. Year 2 and 3 is much better. So, but that is not the major hurdle. The major hurdle are the first 2 issues that I've raised. But what complicates the matter is the relationship has been broken down between the striking pilots and management because they're getting threatened and bullied at the workplace, and the fact that salaries, not even accurate salaries, were published, and the fact that it was said they only work 63 hours a month, those things have, first of all, caused that there's now a lot of tension between the striking and non-striking pilots versus management, because they felt that was inappropriate, and then management denied that they were aware that it's going to be published. And then obviously the 63 hours is absolutely rubbish.
Yeah.
They work on average 170 hours. But those are the kind of things that make the pilots to stand firm. And I hope, their CEO will now suddenly get involved, so that we can resolve this issue, because it's very petty what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, in fact, as you mentioned that, I do remember that in the early days of the strike, the first few days, part of the messaging from FlySafair was to say that your members, the pilots, are among some of the best paid in industry, and that it basically placing them in the top percentile of earners, income earners in the country. Are you saying that that's part of what's been corrosive of the relationship, the publishing of salaries of pilots?
Yeah, to Lasizwe, first of all, what they did is they took the absolute top level salaries of pilots with 20 years experience, and they published that as if that is now what the pilots are earning. So we've got many captains, out of the 300 pilots, we represent 220, so it's 73%, and we've got many captains earning well below that. We're saying, but if that's the case, let's say settle it on that and say from now on the salaries will be between 1.8 million and 2.3. We will gladly settle for that, because we are earning way below that. So they used inflated figures, and they added all kinds of variables to that. There's a variable pay portion, and they added that as if it's part of the package. So it's totally skew. And then obviously also saying they're only flying 63 hours. That's also absolutely nonsense, because they look at the minimum flying hours, but they spend a lot of time on administration. There's waiting time, there's training, etc., adding up to 100. If you fly 63 hours physically in the plane, in the seat, it will take you up to 170 to 108 hours of normal work. And those are the kind of things that upset the pilots to such an event. When they published on that day, 13 pilots joined Solidarity that day. They were so disgusted. And so that's literally, and when they confronted top management regarding this kind of disclosure, it was flatly denied. That top management, senior people involved in negotiations, flatly denied that they were aware that that is going to be published. So it's obviously cannot be true that they're not aware of it. So in the end, those are the kind of things that is just so reckless.
So a last aspect I want to explore with you, Gideon, it was part of my introduction to say that the specter of more flight cancellations looms, and the reasoning there is that pilots are nearing their legal flying time limits. What do we mean by that?
So what basically happens, a pilot, there are legal limits on number of hours they can fly. There are various sets of limits. Obviously, I'm not a specialist, but I know certain conditions steps in after 40 hours or 60 hours. And they have basically reached that limit by today, as far as I am told. So that means now they have to get that compulsory rest. That is why FlySafair is now starting to use SAA flights, which is quite foolish, because what happens, the passengers now get onto SAA, they suddenly realize they pay the same price or less. They're getting a free meal on top of it, or a meal at least that you don't get with FlySafair. There's a lot more room, leg space, and it's a comfortable seat, So why Safair will be so foolish just to do that? But my big concern now is the way that passengers are affected. But pilots will exodus. There will be a major exodus from FlySafair, and which new pilot will join a company where they treat pilots so badly? So at the moment, I simply don't understand their game plan, and I simply don't understand why they can waste so much money, lose so much money as a matter of principle. That just doesn't make business sense. So
just for clarity, these legal flying time limits we are talking about apply to those pilots who've been flying even as the strike has been happening, right?
Correct. So obviously with 190 pilots on strike, the balance of the pilots now have to fly. And so if you need 300 pilots to run your fleet. You cannot do it with 190 less pilots for much longer than what they've done for this week. So literally, so that is the risk they have at the moment, and fatigue is setting in. So that will catch up with them. But in the end, this is the way they want to play the game, and we are in here for the long game.
Incentive or pressure point as far as the negotiations are concerned, what we just discussed, do you view it as an incentive on their part, or is it a pressure point on your part to say, actually, we can afford to hold out a bit more because the reality of this strike is going to bite even more?
Look, the last thing we want to do is to affect passengers. Remember, we've got we've got supporters, and we've got members also affected, working in other industry who also make use of SAFair. So we know in the end, that pressure must come to them, not only financially, but our members are so frustrated that they know they cannot give in now. It's now or never. But in the end, we can easily resolve this matter. We can literally easily resolve this matter if FlySafair can just make that little bit of understanding of what the pilots are asking for. They're asking for a weekend off, and management is asking for millions of rands in extra profits. So that is basically how ludicrous the situation is currently.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you for your time. That's Gideon Du Plessis, who is spokesperson of the trade union Solidarity, representing striking pilots out at FlySafair.